hello everybody. Welcome to In the Growth Space. This is David McGlennon. I am really glad that you're here today. We've got a unique episode today that I've been wanting to do for a long time. And it's really a Q&A episode. And before we get into the podcast episode, I would just like to invite you to go rate and review the podcast. We've got some really great guests coming up, and we want to be able to reach more people. We want to be able to share the message of growth around your teams, growth around your personal development, your own leadership, and growth around your company as well. Make sure that you subscribe. Like I said, we've got some great guests coming up, and I don't want you to miss those. Just for a sneak peek, I'll let you know that I just recorded an episode with Tony Horton. And if you're not familiar with Tony Horton, he is the creator of the wildly popular P90X series of exercise videos and a whole host of other exercise videos. He's hilarious. He has some great insights, and I can't wait to share that with you. I think that episode is coming up in 2 or 3 episodes. So we're usually 2 to 3, sometimes 4 weeks ahead in our recording. And we also have another Coach's Corner with my good buddy Andy Hall coming up. That's going to be a really good one, so you don't want to miss that. So as we get into this Q&A episode, one of the things that I was asked that I thought I would share here with everybody, because I thought it was a great question. And the question was, David, what's your mission? And so as I think about my mission, the mission of myself, my company, Impact Leadership Consulting, really is to help 1,000 companies to optimize their organizational health by 2030. And the reason is because I believe that everyone deserves to have and work in an environment where they can contribute, where they can be challenged, where they can be fulfilled. And I know that that doesn't happen all the time. There are a lot of companies out there that don't have an environment where people feel like they really can contribute, where they really can be challenged and be fulfilled in their purpose. And how we do this, how we fulfill that mission is by creating environments that foster cohesive leadership teams. We grow leaders and grow connection to other leaders. We do that in a variety of ways, but and I can share some of that with you here in just a moment. But the most important thing is that while revenue growth is a factor in growth, obviously, if we're a company, we have to have revenue growth. We have to have profit growth, because without profit, we can't sustain our mission. And so we want to help companies not only just foster the growth of their people, but also foster the revenue growth as well. But most importantly, it's the fulfillment of the people within those organizations, so that they can have a work-life integration that's successful for them. That really is our mission, and our measure of success is to help those people within the organizations to feel fulfilled, to feel like they're carrying out their purpose, and also really to help them to feel like their life and their work is integrated. And at the end of the day, we grow companies by growing leaders within those organizations. And we do it in a variety of ways. This podcast is one of those. I mean, we want to be able to have conversations with leaders who are great at what they do, and they offer some insights on how to grow as a leader, or insights on how to grow a company. I'm really excited about the guests that we've had on. And so this podcast really is one of those ways in which we fulfill our mission. We also help emerging and advancing leaders to grow in a safe space in something we call the inner circle. So the Advancing Leaders Inner Circle is a group that we lead, as well as the Emerging Leader Inner Circle. And something that you'll be hearing more of here in the coming weeks is the Emerging Leader Academy that really is going to be coupled with the Emerging Leader Inner Circle. The Emerging Leader Academy is going to be an online video library where we do our teaching, and we teach skills like delegation and communication and connecting with others, how to lead as a coach. And so those are some things that will be a part of that Emerging Leader Academy. But that's another way that we help leaders in organizations to grow. Those inner circles groups are critical for the growth of leaders. We also run team retreats. We've done actual getaway retreats where we take a leadership team to a cabin in the woods, so to speak, and actually quite literally in the woods. And we run strategy sessions. We facilitate leadership sessions that foster engagement with the team and create cohesive teams. And so those are just a few ways that we carry out our mission. So here is a question that we got in last season that I thought I picked out because it's something that we've been focusing on here to fulfill our mission. And that is, the question is, I'm a business owner and I'm approaching the time when I want to transition out. What's the first thing that I need to think about in creating a leadership succession plan? And I would answer this first and foremost. You have to connect to your purpose. You have to get clear on the vision that you have for your life and not just your business. So what's the vision that you have for your life, and how do you articulate that in the next season of life? There's a lot of questions that I could ask that I would have you really journal about and think about for that next season of life. If you're a business founder, if you're a business owner, you need to be really clear on this. And the main question I would ask you, and this is one I think that you could journal on for sure. Who are you without your business? So what hobbies do you have? What relationships do you have? What's your network like? What will you do to bring purpose to your life after you exit your business and transition your business? It's one that I think is super important. And then having a commitment to making that happen. Because the one thing I know is that in succession planning, if a successor doesn't really have a commitment from the owner as to what's the time frame is, they're gonna look for opportunities to grow in other places. And so if you have a successor that's named and a successor that you are grooming and growing, then be sure to commit to a date, because that commitment then puts a stake in the ground, and it helps not only you to have some certainty of that exit, and hopefully it's a number of years in the future, because the last thing you want is to come up to January 1st of, let's say, 2025 and say, hey, I'm going to leave by the end of this year. Well, 1 year is really not enough time to plan a succession. So plan well in advance, because when you do that, that will help not only you get a lot of clarity and have some certainty, but also your successor as well. Another question here that came in. So what if I am in a leadership development program and I'm not getting anything out of it? What do I do? Should I get out of it? So my first response is, you get out of everything what you put into it. So if you're not getting something out of it, then I would look in the mirror. I know that's harsh, and it may be a little bit of hard reality, but you get out of everything what you put into it. So if you're not putting energy into it, if you're not looking at each interaction with what can I get out of this, what can I learn from this, even if it's a session that maybe you're not particularly interested in, or you don't think that it applies, I'd ask myself, how does this apply to me? Where can I take this and apply this either in my own life, or where could I teach this to others? So if you're not getting something out of a program, whether it's a leadership development program, whether it's a personal growth program, just do some real deep soul searching and see how much you're putting into it. How much are you committed to it? How much have you really invested into that program? And speaking of investment, I think this is the biggest thing, because one of the things that I see often is that companies pay for their people, their leaders, to come into a program like the Emerging Leader Academy, for example, and the Emerging Leader Inner Circle and the Advancing Leader Inner Circle. And if your company is paying, let me just say, pay attention. If your company's paying for you, they're investing in you. And you want to be able to provide an investment return back to the company. But most importantly, not just back to the company, but if they've valued you enough where they're investing in you, gosh, believe in yourself enough to invest in that program and put something into the program so that you can get something out of it for yourself. Because who knows where you might go next. Your company that you go to next may not do that. So being able to get as much as you possibly can from any investment, I think, is well worth it. And let me just say this. If you're a company and you are the one who's paying, I would even suggest having your people contribute, because the reality is that when there's skin in the game, when there are when people are paying, they pay attention. And I just know from my own perspective that I've invested tens of thousands of dollars in personal growth programs, in coaching, and maybe even hundreds of thousands of dollars, now that I think of it, like over the course of 40 years of my career. But when I've done that, when I've been the one that's investing, I pay attention. I put my all into it. And so I would suggest that if you're a company and you're paying for a development program for your people, I would just suggest that there's some kind of a cost share mechanism. And maybe it's a cost share, and then have some way to ensure that they're engaging. And it's okay if you want to reimburse that or kick it back to them and say, hey, look, you paid 25% of this program. But because you went through the program, you engaged, and you, let's say you gave us a report on all that you learned after the fact, we're going to reimburse you that 25%. So I just think that if your company is investing in you, pay attention, invest in that. You deserve it, and your employer deserves it as well. Great question, by the way. I think that it's a really good one. Okay, so we do have an audio question here, and I'm just so thrilled that somebody actually called in on our line and was willing enough to actually leave their name. So let's go ahead and hear and play that audio question right now.
Hey, David, this is Cosmo. Wasn't sure if I was going to leave my name or not, but I'm going to, because that'll put me on the hook. And really one of my questions that I have that I struggle with is, how do I get tasks or objectives that I need to work on from the back burner to the front burner? And that's my question. I struggle with this at times, being so busy and so many different tasks happening every day. So my question is really just, again, how do I get my objectives and tasks from the back burner to the front burner to complete them? Thank you, and have a great day.
All right, Cosmo, thank you for that question. For those of you who might know Cosimo, he has been on the podcast before. He was a part of our inaugural Emerging Leader Inner Circle program. And I'm really grateful for this question, Cosmo, because it's an issue that a lot of emerging leaders and advancing leaders have to deal with. And actually, I think it's all leaders. It's really all about your calendar and your calendar management. So I would first say, make your objectives visible. Make your goals and objectives visible. Put them in a place where you see them every day. If it's on your computer, if it's on your whiteboard, if it's on a bulletin board, post it at least one place where you're seeing it in your office or wherever you typically are. Make sure it's very visible. And then have some kind of a ritual where you are looking at those objectives and making them very present, like every day, and maybe even almost every hour if possible. But beyond that, then making them visible is the first thing. But I think secondly is time blocking. So many leaders don't know how to time block, and they feel like that they can get pulled away from the time that they've blocked because perhaps there's an emergency out on the floor, or with a project manager or what have you. But if you time block and if you create blocks of time on your calendar, make sure that you commit to that time block. And beyond that, then when you put that time block on your calendar, make sure that you communicate that time block to your team, just to let them know that, hey, I've got a time block where I can't be disturbed. Close your door, close, whatever you need to, close yourself into your office and focus right then and there, and honor that time block to yourself. The thing I know is that when you make progress, when you work on something and just advance just a little bit, you're going to gain momentum. And if you know anything about John Maxwell's 21 irrefutable laws, the law of momentum is a leader's best friend. So I would say just make progress. Time block, commit to that time block, and just make progress. Advance towards your goals. And when you do that every day, you're going to see that you have really made progress on those objectives. And so make sure that you're honoring that time block. It's really easy to not do that. And so I hope that answers your question, Cosmo, but it's a really good one, really good one. All right, next question is, how do I prepare my next level leaders? Well, this is a fastball right down the center for me, because I think you have to be very intentional with putting them in an environment where they're going to grow. Put them in an environment where they're going to be challenged. You give them tasks that they've never done before. Give them tasks that stretch them beyond where they are right now in their leadership growth journey. Maybe put them on a committee that helps them to think beyond where they are in their current role. Then, of course, I'm going to tell you to put them into the Emerging Leader Academy and the Emerging Leader Inner Circle, because when you do that, you're going to help them to learn those critical skills of communication, being able to talk off the top of your head. We do something in the Emerging Leader Inner Circle that is modeled after the Toastmasters table topics section of their meetings. So you have to be able to think on your feet and talk on your feet. So those communication skills, not only do they help with communication and connecting with other leaders, but it also provides a mechanism for confidence for the leader as well. In addition to those communication skills, we're going to be teaching about delegation. We're going to teach about being a coach. So leading as a coach, how to actually have a coaching conversation, how to ask good questions. I'm amazed at how many leaders really don't ask good questions. They ask so many closed-ended questions. They start their questions with "Do you? Do you have?" And those questions are simple yes or no questions, and that leads to really no dialogue. So we teach those leaders how to ask better questions, and so putting a leader in an environment like our Emerging Leader Academy, like our Emerging Leader Inner Circle, you're going to help them to be in an environment with other leaders that is a safe space. It's a supportive space. It's a place where they can try things. They can fail. They can fail and still be supported and learn, because that's what they need. And so that's what I would encourage you to do in terms of developing your leaders. I would also give them some podcasts to listen to. Obviously, you're listening to this podcast. Give them the link to this podcast. Give them the link to other podcasts. I have a number of different podcasts that I listen to. I listen to Craig Groeschel. I listen to Carey Nieuwhof. I listen to Diary of a CEO. So just a number of different podcasts that I can learn and grow from. I think one of the ones that's outside of leadership, but I learn from all the time. It's called The Drive by Dr. Peter Attia. It's a lot about health and fitness and longevity, and so expand their minds by giving them things to hear, to listen to think, to read. Put a reading list together. If you need one of those, reach out to me, david@davidmcglennon.com. Happy to help you with a great reading list. As you look at my shelf back behind here, obviously I've read a few books, and I've got some really good favorites, I think, that can help any leader to really get started on that leadership journey. All right, next question. I am a new people leader, and I've never held one-to-one meetings with my team members. What's the best way to structure those? So, great question. And the fact that you want to have one-to-one meetings with your team members is, first of all, I applaud that, because you have to be able to connect with your people. You have to make sure that you're helping them to achieve their objectives. And by doing these one-on-ones, you're going to help them to learn, to lead themselves, and to achieve their objectives. So I would suggest 4 questions to ask them. There's really going to be 2 answers to this question. First and foremost, have an agenda. And this is just one way to think about it. So I'm not going to say that you have to do it this way, but this is a way that you'll help them to be thinking ahead of time, and give this agenda to them. Give these questions to them. What's been going well for you? What are you finding most fulfilling since we last met? Because what that does is that fosters self-reflection. And that's really a great opportunity to give them some meaningful feedback, and give them some meaningful recognition as well. So, what are you finding most fulfilling since we've last met, and what's going well for you? The second question is, what hasn't gone as well as you'd like? What's been frustrating since we last met? That's a great question. And again, that fosters that self-reflection, and it opens an opportunity to add on with additional growth feedback. So developmental feedback is a great tool to help your people grow. And if you're an emerging leader, which it sounds like you are, because you're a new people leader, then I would say be thinking of and looking for ways that you can give that developmental feedback. It's another component of our Emerging Leader Inner Circle and Emerging Leader Academy that we teach, because that developmental feedback is so important, and as well as the motivational feedback as well. So the third question is, what have I done? So this is you as the leader asking this question. What have I done since we last met that you've appreciated and want me to continue to do more of? So what this does is it helps you to understand what's working in your own leadership. So what have I done since we last met that you've appreciated and you want me to continue or do more of? This is going to help them to think about and help you to learn what motivates them and what they want more of. Then the last thing, the last question is, since we last met, what have I done that hasn't been helpful or that you'd like me to do differently? And really what this does is it shows that you can receive feedback too. And it shows that you are open to, maybe, exposing your blind spots. How am I acting in a way that maybe I'm not aware and maybe I'm not conscious to? So I think those 4 questions would be really helpful. Now, the other way that you could hold your one-on-ones, and I kind of like this approach as well, and maybe you mix it up a little bit, but you really could alternate a coaching approach to your one-to-ones as well. So open the session with, hey, what's on your mind today, and then follow that up by, hey, tell me a little bit more, say a little bit more. Or maybe you might even ask, what else? So this, again, is something that we talk about in the coaching approach, in the Leader as a Coach component of the Emerging Leader Academy. What are some options that you could take to overcome the challenges that you're facing? So that's another part of what we call the GROW model. If you're familiar with coaching, the GROW model is what we teach in the Emerging Leader Academy. So what's on your mind? Tell me more, or what else? What are some options to overcome your challenge? And then lastly, what are you going to do, and by when? And that way you can get some commitment to moving forward. So I think if I was a new leader, I would probably structure my one-to-ones with alternating both those kinds of approaches, having a set agenda that you can run, as well as a coaching approach. But you may not necessarily know how to do that coaching approach right off the back because you've never practiced it before. So that agenda with the 4 questions probably is the first step that I would take. Next question is, how can I get better at managing my calendar? All right. This is a little bit tied to the question that Cosimo asked in the audio question, but I would say first and foremost, have a review process. Have a weekly review and ask yourself, how did I do against my big 3 objectives? And here's what I do. So I have 3 objectives that I want to get done for every week. And a lot of times they're either tied to a project or they are a project. Maybe it's a preparation for a session that I have with a leadership team. Whatever those 3 objectives are, limit them to 3 objectives. But how did I do against my big 3 objectives? So review that process, or review your calendar for that week. And then the weekly preview. What are next week's 3 big 3 objectives? What are the things I want to get done next week? And then as you look at your calendar during the week, or the week ahead, ask yourself what shouldn't be on your calendar, what should be on your calendar but isn't, and then how much flex time do you think you're going to need to deal with emergencies this week? Build that in. What could be arranged more optimally in your calendar? One of the things that I do is that I have certain days for batching tasks. So typically my Mondays are a creative and writing day. So typically I'm gonna write my emails. I'm gonna write my lessons, do some prep work. So what could be arranged more optimally on your calendar in the coming week? And maybe also ask yourself a question: where are some landmines in my calendar? What could go wrong? What could maybe explode and have expand on my calendar, or maybe even contract on my calendar as well. So only you know what that looks like. But I really think the key is time blocking. And on a high level, one of the other things that I do is that I put together my ideal week. So it's really kind of a template for my week and a rhythm to my week. And typically, so like I said, my Mondays are my creative, my writing, my preparation day. My Friday afternoons are typically the days when I do something what I call backstage days, and essentially what those are, those are admin tasks. Those are kind of cleaning up from the week. Anything that I need to do accounting wise, I'll send stuff to the bookkeeper. Create invoices, things like that. So time block your calendar so that your tasks are on your calendar. So I would say that that's my biggest suggestion for how you can manage your calendar better. So we've got two more questions I'll tackle here. And this is a good one. How do you define success versus how your parents' generation defined success? I love that question. I would say I really like the answer that I think it's John Maxwell uses, and that is basically having those who know me best love and respect me the most. I think that's my definition of success, and it really is all about me valuing relationships in my life. And I'll say that I've not always been good at that, and that has not always been my definition of success, because my parents' generation, and keep in mind my parents were the ones who programmed me. My parents' generation defined it by how much money you made, and whether you put in all the hours you needed to work hard. And it was really a mentality that was driven out of the industrial era. How many hours did you put in? Did you put in your 8 hours? Did you put in your 10 hours? So that was my parents' generation, and we live in a new world. And I will say too, my own definition of success has evolved, because when I was 25 years old, my definition of success was being a millionaire, being a multimillionaire. That's what I thought success was, looked like. That's not necessarily how I look at it today. I think it's important. I think, financial success is important, but it's not everything. So that's a great question. And I would encourage you to think about what's your definition of success as well. All right. So I've got one last question here that I'll put forward. And that question is, what rituals do you do daily to help you reach your goals? And if anybody knows me, they should know that I love daily rituals. And so one of my favorite rituals is my morning ritual. You see my chair back there, and that's where my morning rituals take place. And so my morning rituals take place there, and they consist of morning prayer time, Bible reading time. I take some time for meditation. And sometimes it's through an app. Sometimes it's just on my own personally. I've meditated for a long time now, so I have my own way of doing that, and it's based on some apps that I've used and some other teaching that I've received throughout my life. I journal. Typically, I will journal at least a page or two. And in that journal, I also end every journal entry with 3 things that I'm grateful for in that day. Gratitude is huge, and so that's another thing that helps me to really help me reach my goals. The other thing I would say is daily big 3. You heard me talk about my weekly big 3, but I translate that into my daily big 3. What are the 3 things that I need to and want to get done in that day? What if I get done these 3 things, I will be successful in that day. And so I limit those 3 things. And it's taken me a while to get to this point, but if I get those 3 things done, man, I'm going to check out. I got the most important things done. And so now I can check out. Other times I may only get done 2 things. And there may only be 1 or 2 things on my big 3 list that day because it may be a big project. But having a morning ritual sets my day up, and it also gives me some momentum for the day. And that law of momentum is so crucial. So I guess I'll leave it right there. So thank you so much for tuning into this Q&A episode. Again, I really appreciate you listening, and I really appreciate you sending in questions. We'll do some more questions. We'll probably do another Q&A session sometime in this this season. But send your questions my way, david@davidmcglennon.com. I've been compiling those since I asked about them last spring and have been really wanting to do this episode. Be sure to subscribe. We've got Tony Horton coming up. I mean, we've got a session with Andy Hall, Coach's Corner, and so we've got a lot of great episodes coming up. So be sure to subscribe. Give us a like and a review on YouTube. Hit the thumbs up on YouTube. Hit the bell so that you get notified when we drop a new episode. All right, that's all for now. Thank you so much again for tuning in to In the Growth Space. And until next time, be well.